Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take. Today is the day after the second ever official Marvel Snap tournament open to the public. The Golden Gauntlet 2 was this tournament, and it was yet once more an absolute blast. From casters to staff to players, everyone had a great time, and it has already begun to shape the meta. If you've been playing ladder, you might not even realize it. You might not have known there's a tournament, but you are seeing tournament decks. You are seeing the winning deck. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go over all of the top 16. There were almost 1,000 players and a cut to a top 16. We're going to go over all of the top 16 decks, starting with the winner. The winner is our friend Roram, and before we go further, I'm going to be obnoxious. You're going to have to bear with me. I'm going to give you an I told you so. If this is your first time here, fine. But for all of those of you who've been here, I told you Roram was the real deal. We've shared dozens of his decks at this point, and I told you that his little group of the meta was taking over. His group of meta players, including Cougar, including Smiles, all these top players, Heart of the Card, so on, were all top players, and his group was going to be taking over what's going to set the meta. Here we are, mere weeks later, and Rom wins Golden Gauntlet 2. Congrats, my friend. Please, at this point, go check out this King's stream. He's an absolute beast at this game, and he created his own version of the 34-card Monty. For anyone who doesn't know what that means this deck has, in fact, 30 cards in it. Arishem has his number, Thanos adds his number, Agamotto adds his number, and then when you add them all together, you end up with 34 cards in your deck at the start of each game of Marvel Snap. That is a ridiculously huge deck, but because Thanos starts in hand and because stones draw cards, it all works together. You can find Roram at twitch.tv/RoramPlays. Please go follow him. He absolutely deserves the support. He is participating in setting the meta right now with his deck building and with his play. You will be seeing a lot of this deck. Start to get ready for your Darkhawks and Cassandra Novas, friends. Arishem, Thanos, and Galacta are your three needed cards for this. Agamotto and Legion are both really good, but Vision and Claw are fine replacements. If you cut Agamotto, unfortunately, you're going to have to change the name, though, because now you have 4 less cards in your deck. It's very sad. Alioth can be Nick Fury. That is worse. Again, all changes are worse, but they're acceptable changes. You don't have Mockingbird, you can run She-Hulk. Again, worse. But if you do pass on turn 2, you can play a She-Hulk on turn 3, which has reasonable use. Valentina can be either Iron Patriot or Cable. Valentina is best because Valentina on 2 lets you go directly into that 4-drop on turn 3 when you want to. Iron Patriot, you have to do extra work. Cable, you're at the mercy of whatever cards they have. But Valentina is just like, boom, I got this. And then, of course, we have Surge. That can be Quinjet because Surge's job is to basically discount things, and Quinjet can discount things for you. I did get some comments from the Great Roram. I only have comments from a few of the top players. Last time I was able to get all of them. If you are one of these players who made the top 16 and you'd like to say something about your deck, please reach out to me on Discord at PulseGlazer. So Roram says, I chose the deck I did because open decklist tournament format gives Arishem an advantage and puts everyone else at a disadvantage. That makes perfect sense. The logic here is the opponent cannot know what to play around if you have Arishem. He was able to win a top 4 game because Arishem gave him a last turn Quake in a Bar with No Name game. That kind of thing you just don't get otherwise in open decklist formats, and Roram had that advantage. I asked him what his toughest matches were, and he said Honifer and Kingpin, the semis in round of 16, were my hardest matches. The 2 games I lost were because of Gambit, RNG, and Roram is a huge Gambit fan. He plays a lot of Gambit Surfer and Gambit other shenanigans, so Roram loves Gambit, and Gambit, did not love him back in the first game he lost, which was round 1 of the tournament, I believe. And then the Arishem Mirror, which is a deck we'll see later this video. That one is Kingpin's deck. We're going to see that later on. Honifer was the top 4 game, by the way. That was won by that big Quake. But the Arishem Mirror, we'll talk about that later. He lost to it in the Swiss rounds and then beat it in the cut. Swiss rounds being if you're a sports fan, the regular season, and the cut being the playoffs. Honestly, the win felt incredible and was so fun and exhilarating. Nice. Glad you enjoyed it. He also says he's thankful to the host and cast of the tournament, and if you'd like to see me play more, you can find me at twitch.tv/RoramPlays. What are you waiting for? Make sure you're there. And one more thought, I hope they nerf Thanos because he's too consistent. Yup. Cool. All right, let's go card by card. So Surge is just nice extra energy. Surge and Shang-Chi were the most played cards in the tournament. We're going to see them in an absolute ton. We're also going to see Thanos all over the top 16, so ready yourself for an awful lot of Thanos, including an extra Thanos Arishem. But Surge and Shang-Chi are just in almost every deck right now. There's too much big stuff, especially in a tournament. In open deck lists, if you know your opponent does have a Shang-Chi, you're able to really stack up power and not have any fear. So you have to run Shang-Chi often, and then Surge gives you sort of pseudo unknown information, right? Your opponent can't know what cards are hit, what you're trying to chain, what's going to have one more power and be able to steal a lane. All that stuff is really useful. Valentina is yet more unknown information. We discussed this earlier, but if you play Valentina on 3, you can play that 6 drop that she gave you on 4. Juggernaut is a late game, you have to think about it card. If your opponent has Juggernaut and you think you're going to win a lane on the cheap, he can absolutely ruin your life, allowing the Roram in this case, to win games easily without major commitment. Galacta lets you add extra power. Sometimes one of the problems with Arishem is you just don't draw enough power, especially if you're running cards that are fundamentally like air, like Thanos' stones and Agamotto spells. Galacta gives you a way to really pump those up. Enchantress is the same concept as Shang. Basically, keep those ongoing players honest. Worm won a game in the cut because the opponent moved a Sam shield onto Sam, and Enchantress was played, and that just trapped all the cards there, being a nice clean win. Legion is another just big scam card. That bar with no name game, for example, right? Roram has Legion, and your opponent has to play around that Legion all game. Your opponent there's that close on turn 4 lane location, and all of a sudden Legion can do that, right? There's just a million different things. Legion lets you scam out cubes. You don't have to win big cubes every game. On ladder, Legion can often mean smaller cube gains, as most players, good players, know what decks are going to run Legion. In Conquest, in a tournament setting, you can't know that. Agamotto likewise gives you a lot of extra power. Also, a 5/10 is just a lot because you can play it on turn 4, and you have an extra card to draw. So running Agamotto gives you 2 shots to draw them, and with this deck, having the absence of Bolts of Balthak or Images of Icon with numerous cards is incredibly strong. Goliath turns off opponents' things. It's just very powerful, especially on turn 5. Let's say you run into a Sarah deck or a deck that wants to like Killmonger away a bunch of your stuff. Goliath handles that. Mockingbird is cheap. Not only do you have Thanos' stones, you have all of the Arishem Flotsam in order to get as cheap to free a 9-power Mockingbird as possible. Thanos can be played on 5 as a 6/12, or if you play Timestone on 4 as a 4/12. That's absurd. Sometimes that can't be destroyed, sometimes that can be played anywhere. And of course, Arishem gives you the energy to make all of this stuff work. The Golden Gauntlet winner. Turn 1, you want to draw cards. Over generated cards or pass. Turn 2, Valentina is generally better than Surge. Turn 3, we're going Galacta or Mockingbird over generated stuffs. If we can get Galacta or Mockingbird now, we are looking to snap fairly often. Turn 4, Legion over Agamotto Thanos. Turn 5, Goliath, Thanos, and control cards. And then turn 6 is the same concept as turn 5. Obviously, turn by turn is harder for this style of list than most because you're just going to draw completely random stuff. This deck does a lot of completely stupid things in a lot of completely shocking ways. You should be able to find a way to win by just putting out more points than opponents and surprising them by that, because your opponent's going to go, they can't possibly have X, and fairly often, if you play for it, you're going to have that X and win those games of Marvel Snap. This is going to be everywhere. Even if you don't want to play it, get ready for it. It won the biggest tournament thus far in Marvel Snap history, almost 1,000 players. Congrats once more to Roram. So what we're going to do after I tell you about our giveaway, it's not Esme, it's actually Merlin. We're giving away a Merlin. One would have thought I would have changed that after last time, but we're giving away a Merlin. I will make an announcement of like 4 Merlin winners on the channel later today. I'll just make a community post and I will tag those winners, so keep an eye out for that. All you have to do is sub, like, and comment if you'd like to try and win Merlin. Any video that released this past week will enter you to win, and any video next week will enter you in this coming week's Merlin giveaway. So if you want Merlin for free, hit that sub, like, and comment. Now, we're going to go over the decks that lost in the round of 16. We're not going to do full guides for them. We are going to do full guides for the whole top 8, including the second place deck and the top 4 deck. Cool. So the first deck is Piv Extras Undefeated King of Swiss deck. This is the deck that did not lose in the Swiss rounds. It basically undefeated regular season, completely rocked everything. Now, this is a descendant of Safety Blade Slayer Blade, which was the best deck last summer. Mercury sort of brings it back. Professor X was incredibly powerful. You can just sort of slam Professor X and try and steal lanes, and then you can still get in there thanks to Jeff and Mercury for a ton of power, especially because those Jeff and Mercury can be buffed further by Elsa or can be hit by Galacta, giving you real ways to get into those lanes for a lot of power. Your opponent would like to generally move into the Professor X lane, and Mercury says nope. Mercury saying nope is really, really powerful because then you play Cannonball on Mercury, and Cannonball will auto-destroy that card. Besides that, we have 3 scalers, Athena, Angela, and Elsa. Those are your smaller scalers meant to get you extra power early in the game. You would generally like to Professor X one of their lanes. Kitty and Merlin ensure that you can trick Athena basically any turn you would like to. That's very, very useful. And then, of course, we have Luna. Luna in this case being a really good ramp into Professor X, but also letting us last turn do a Mercury Cannonball play. And finally, of course, Enchantress. This is not a Shang, this is an Enchantress, saying, I think that Cannonball can handle the biggest things in the game. I need to handle the smaller, ongoing things. Great deck from Pib Extra. Undefeated in King of Swiss. I hate that people can go completely undefeated and then lose in the round of 16 and be eliminated from tournaments. Makes me very sad, but such is the format. Next up, we've got Azona's top 16 deck. This one is the like bog ass standard scream list, the one you would like completely expect. Hell, it's running Silk, and it's not even running Hydra Stomper. It's running Red Guardian instead. Silk is just an extra move card for Craven and to make Miles cheap, and to move around Batrock. We're not running we're not bothering with Mercury. We're just running Cannonball as the natural. Oh, I can manage to get a Clog with our Polaris, with our Stegron, with our Spider-Man stuff. This is the exact standard screen list, like almost exactly card for card, which you would expect to see. Like if you threw Scream into the auto builder and it gave you a generic good Scream list, it would be this. So I'm not shocked to see it reach top 16. Scream remains a really, really powerful deck, but I am impressed with the level of piloting to take such a known quantity and still be able to perform this well with it. Next up, we've got 75 CM. This is the top 16 Thanos Cannonball deck. So this is the standard Thanos control, right? This Thanos Strange Supreme. There are two differences here. We're running Fenris Wolf, right? Why are we running Fenris Wolf? Well, we've got Shang like always, but we've also got Mercury Cannonball, because if you can Mercury Cannonball, that's an auto kill on whatever you cannonball. Why not get that back for free? Outside of that, though, once more, we are traditional Thanos control. We've talked about this deck for months on end at this point. You should understand, well, since Strange Supreme came out, more or less, right? So you should understand the function and format of this list. If you miss this style, just know that this is still a top deck. We are going to see more Thanos going forward. But this is the only bullseye. Much like I'm extremely impressed that a bog standard Scream list can do so well, I'm very impressed that a bog standard, whatchamacallit, I can speak, I swear. A bog standard Bullseye discard. I couldn't get the name Bullseye even though I'm looking at it. A bog standard Bullseye discard can do this well in the tournament. And this one does not do Grandmaster. Instead, it chooses to go Moon Girl. What does Moon Girl offer you, you might ask? Well, if you go Bullseye into Moon Girl, right? You still have turn 5 to play like a double Morbius type play. Moon Girl's really good for Collector. Moon Girl, you can still get 2 to 3 shards from Moon Girl, although you're not going to be able to get as many Dockins, right? Or like, I guess you can, right? If you go Dockin, Frigga, Moon Girl. No, because then you don't have a chance to play that second Dockin, right? So you're going to have to just make extra shards to make one Dockin really big. This one goes more all in on the Morbius and the Collector style, therefore, and is thus a slightly different deck, but with less Morbius, it's still really strong. And again, I'm very impressed to see this kind of standard list. It's very hard to win in tournaments if the opponent knows exactly what you're playing and has 1,000 reps against your deck. That's why you see so many new brews and get so many new decks from tournaments. And Probka and our friend Ozona were able to take bog standard list decks that people know how to play against and just pilot them well enough that they were able to hit top 16. Next up, we've got I, Thomas. Speaking of bog standard lists that were able to hit top 16, it is Cerebro 2. This is, again, the fairly standard version of Cerebro 2, right? We do have just a touch of unpredictability. There's nothing unpredictable about this, right? Except do they have Swarm, I guess? But this deck does have a touch of unpredictability, and that is sort of wrapped up in Nico. Nico can be multiple cards. Turning Cerebro into a 2-power card is just really, really great. Making a copy of Cerebro, all that stuff, wins you games that you wouldn't otherwise win. But I, Thomas, was able to take C2 and just say, I've got so much power, I can win enough games to hit the top 16. Again, a wildly impressive situation to find oneself in. Props to I, Thomas as well. From here, more known decks. This is a bounce move. This one runs Falcon of all cards. What is Falcon over Doctor Strange in this deck? Meaning one less move card, but one more bounce card. It's going to bounce, obviously, Aranya, Ghost Spider, Human Torch, and Iron Fist. Again, this is another one we've been talking about for months, but this one makes talking about Thanos for months seem sad, because we've been talking about a version of this deck within 2 or 3 cards since, like, the moment Madam Web came out, and then, like, Toxin coming out a month later really put it over the top. Sizer, by the way, missed top 16, losing to the Thanos that runs Cannonball and Mercury. So Kingpin did not run into that and was able to take the deck that puts out the most points into the top 16 before falling, unfortunately. Monoluca. What? This is, again, I told you we were going to see more Thanos. This is fairly standard. There's two changes made to this, again, that we wouldn't expect. First, we have Luna. Luna as an extra bit of ramp. We want ramp in this deck, right? Like, Thanos Control really does care about ramp because they have a lot of control cards to play. Well, we've got Luna to enable that along with Wiccan. The other thing this deck gives us is a frickin' Cersei. Why not turn all the stones into 2s? Why not turn Mobius or Red Guardian into a 4 at the end of the game? Okay, cool. Cersei is kind of a hilarious, weird ad, but it also makes Strange Supreme eat all the things Cersei turns into. I don't know. I would not have expected this as good, but Cersei's a fairly inspired pick, and I think it's really cool that this was tried, and I'm impressed it worked because, again, I would not have expected Cersei to work in this list. Finally, we have our friend Avazord. I believe this is the last person. Yeah. Finally, we have our friend Avazord, who is the final member of the tournament who did not make the top 16. And this list, hey, Supergiant's a 4-7. Awesome. Yesterday, even though I made it yesterday, Supergiant was still a 4-5, and that was driving me crazy. So this is a very mean list. I played this a little bit on ladder, and oh my god. Like, you've got Mercury out, and then you like play Daredevil, and then you play Supergiant. And if you've got priority, your opponent's just like dead. There's very little they can do. There's occasional like weird curve stuff in this list where you're playing things off curve, but outside of that, this deck puts up way more points than it looks like. It's got way more surprises than it looks like, and having access to both Daredevil and Supergiant in this kind of tournament is super mean. I'm so happy Avazord is back. His decks are absolutely brilliant. So basically what you want to do is you want to like Daredevil, Supergiant, make sure you have Prio, and then when they play their cards, you know what they are, so you can drop a Cosmo or Negasonic in that lane as you so choose, and then you can go Cannonball Mercury to win wherever the hell you want otherwise. So just like you just steal cubes with this. So again, I'm happy Ava's back. Who else builds weird shit like this? Props to Ava for coming up with this very cool super giant Mercury Cannonball list that is just mean. Just a mean list. We've got to cover this in full in a video relatively soon. Although, hey, if you checked yesterday's video, we might have covered this one a little bit. You should come stop by and check out a stream at twitch.tv/PulseGlazer if you have time. It would mean a lot if you can find time to come hang out. Next up, we've got Rabbit Suite. Rabbit Suite made the top 8, and top 8 means a full deck guide. So Rabbit Suite's deck is a Wiccan Supergiant deck, and we do have comments from Rabbit Suite about his deck. Make sure you keep it here if you want full guides for the rest of the decks, and you probably should. A lot of people are going to be playing deck number 1, right? But there's other powerful stuff here. Don't miss out. Don't play one boring deck forever. You'll be sad. Find some cool stuff for the rest of this video. So this is just a powerful deck. It runs Wiccan and Supergiant, and Rabbit Suite's going to explain how. So you can find Rabbit Suite at twitter.com/RabbitSuiteHS. He's made whatever the top of Hearthstone is. It's written in his bio. I don't remember. But he's also made the tops of multiple other Marvel Snap tournaments. Rabbit Suite's an awesome, awesome gamer. This deck needs Supergiant, Gladiator, Goliath, and Wiccan. Those 4 are required. Merlin or Kate can be Penny Parker. I'm really sorry, but you do need those. And Surge can be Jennifer Kale, but replacements in this one are kind of gross. So Rabbit Suite's comments. So I created a deck with Supergiant and Ronin as the main focus since I knew that the recently buffed Supergiant and Ronin worked well together. The logic here is that Supergiant will hide cards, right? And one of the cards that can hide can be like a Maximus, which will draw cards at the end of the game, making Ronin bigger. This deck has a lot of potential and is fun to play. The other is you can play Ronin under Supergiant. They don't know that you're going to play like a Maximus or something, and then you can win that way. Basically, I need to set up my mana curve with Hawkeye and Merlin, that BK Bishop, and play according to that curve. However, for decks that prepare on turn 5, I prioritize Supergiant, even if Wiccan's conditions are met. And that's a part of the beauty of an open decklist tournament. You know if your opponents are going to have an important and powerful turn 5, and at that point, you can just play Supergiant, even over Wiccan. If you take the Supergiant plan, you need to make adjustments because the options you have will change depending on if you go first or second. We'll talk about that when we get to the card by card. I lost to 2 decks in the tournament, Thanos and Cannonball. However, I don't think it's a clearly unfavorable matchup. There are many plans you can take so you can deal with them by changing the weight of the game with snaps. Cool. And finally, I will come back stronger. I love the Marvel Snap community, and I hope to see you at a convention, a tournament soon. Rabbit Suite, huge props for the great showing and the kind words. All right, so Quicksilver's here for Wiccan. You just want Wiccan. It's also nice because it means you always have 1 drop to try and get Prio. Shadow King is a late play, something you hide under Supergiant or play on the last turn. Surge gives you things cheaper is good, and also the information imbalance she creates. Kate Bishop, meanwhile, is make sure you have extra cards for your curve, gives you a little Clog game plan, has some extra ways to move stuff in, and helps you fill out your curve so that you can more accurately Wiccan. Merlin does the same thing with Wiccan while also giving you plenty of extra stuff. You can turn Quicksilver into a 2, for example. You can use it for extra energy as you need, basically giving yourself a mini Wiccan turn as well. Maximus draws 2 cards. It's a 2/6. 2/6 is big. It draws 2 cards for your opponent. You do that at the end of the game under Supergiant. It doesn't matter for them, but it does give +4 to Ronin. Negasonic with Prio under Supergiant is incredible. Cool. That's it. That's what it's here for. You can occasionally use it as like a fake alive too. Gladiator is just big. You've got the keyword big card. It is literally, I believe, the biggest, not second biggest alive native stats in the deck. It blows up a card. It's big, and so you run it. Wiccan gives you extra energy. If your opponent doesn't care about like their turn 5 and you don't feel like you have prio or anything great to do, just play Wiccan and then you can figure it out as you go. It gives you a ton of optionality. Supergiant with prio lets you play Negasonic. Without prio lets you play Shadow King, because that prio will not change after turn 4 for the rest of the game at that point. So keep that in mind. Ronin is also very good at this point. You can go like Shadow King and Maximus on turn 5. So Ronin is also good. It's just really, really big. There's a lot of decks that are running cards like Merlin, cards like Thanos, that just have big hands, and thus Ronin is absolutely a huge card. And of course, Alioth. If they play a bunch of important stuff after your Supergiant, you just Alioth it away, win the damn game. They're gonna have to run. And remember, in a closed format, in a closed circuit that is Conquest, running hurts. It costs them every single time. So this is in the top 8, beat Pib Extra in the top 16, and lost to Theseus in the top 8. Turn 1 Quicksilver, turn 2 Surge if Gladiator, but Merlin is better than Kate otherwise. Turn 3 Gladiator over 2/1 over Negasonic, nice and simple. You will play Negasonic if you need to for the curve, but Gladiator is usually what you're going for. Turn 4 Wiccan or Supergiant, pending. Turn 5 if Supergiant, Ronin, or Negasonic and Shadow King, or Negasonic and Maximus, you get the idea. If Wiccan, play out the control cards, or you could even Alioth. Turn 6, Alioth if Supergiant play, or Ronin and Maximus if the other play. And then you probably win. You're just putting up a ton of points with just enough control and disruption in this list. This is a very technical list, but if you're good at Ronin lists, if you're good at Supergiant lists, you're going to have a lot of success with it. We've got 2 Supergiant decks making the top 16. I wouldn't have thought that would happen, but I'm pretty happy it did. Before we go further, if you're enjoying this, we do this every day. Every day we give you at least 3 new Marvel Snap decks, usually 4, sometimes 10, and we give you a full guide for every single one, just like we did with that last deck. So if that sounds good to you, please hit that sub, like, and comment. Don't miss out. Every day's videos. We haven't missed one in over 2 years. Next up, we got Unity. Unity, great to see Unity, often a top 10 infinite leaderboard player. Just an absolute monster, playing Arishem Thanos. This one is, I believe, 2 cards different than the other one. We're running Iron Patriot. Oh, we're running Shadow King also. Okay. So we're running Shadow King and Iron Patriot and Lady Deathstrike. Fine. Have fun. It is otherwise the same list. Unity, twitter.com/Unity0919 if you want to go find Unity. We discussed this already with the winning deck. This beat Ava in the top 16 and lost to Rorm in the top 8 mirror, although it did beat Rorm in Swiss. So this is a deck that easily could have won this damn tournament with slightly different matchups. Iron Patriot here gives you an extra thing to discount. That's fundamentally its main goal. And Lady Deathstrike lets you blow up some shenanigans. Say, I don't want to deal with Lady Deathstrike or certain other things. Fine. Have fun. Like, this is fundamentally the same deck. I'm not going to go over it again. We just spent 10 minutes on it earlier this video. But props to Unity for coming up with something really cool. Unity, by the way, would have left some comments. I don't know most of the players here. Unity would have left some comments. I will hopefully get them to you soon. But time zones are a thing. And Unity was going to sleep. Which, much love. Bless. Next up, we got Jonathan Liu, who we talked about yesterday. We talked about this deck yesterday. This is a Thanos, I don't know, let's just call it like a Thanos Wolf deck, Thanos Fenris Wolf deck. This is a really cool take on it. This one's going pure power. It's still Thanos Strange Supreme. Again, we're not done with Thanos. We're not even close to done with Thanos. We've still got another entire archetype of Thanos. But this is a new archetype of Thanos at the very least. This is one of those shows us that like we don't really know all we think we know decks, that Thanos can really still compete at the top. So, or that different types of Thanos can still compete at the top. Jonathan Liu created this. This deck needs Thanos, Galactic, Gladiator, Fenris, and Strange. Yes, there's versions that don't run Gladiator and Fenris, but then it's a different deck. Please feel free to refer to the one we talked about earlier for those replacements. Hope can be Wiccan or Luna. Surge can be Sam or Iron Patriot, and Red Hulk can be Alioth or Magneto. So, let's talk about it, and then we're going to go turn by turn. Strange Supreme is obviously one of the strongest Thanos cards. It's worth remembering, however, that Strange Supreme plays as a 2/11 if played on curve. What Strange Supreme's value is that he concentrates power into one lane, which lets you win a lane on the cheap. In an open format, you know if the opponent has that Red Guardian or whatever else, so you know how to play and protect this card, and thus are able to really use it effectively. Surge gives you extra energy. Surge is in almost every deck. I don't know how to keep explaining that extra energy plus extra power is good, especially when it's unpredictable. Same thing is true of Shang-Chi. Power must be controlled. All good. Fenris Wolf takes advantage of that power being controlled and gives you potentially that card. If you're not able to Shang anything though, you can often get lucky with Gladiator and get a decent card that way. So Fenris Wolf is just an extra card, sometimes an extra game-winning card. Hope is your energy cheat here. Before Wiccan took over, Hope was very often the energy cheat Thanos preferred. What we're really trying to cheat in Thanos is very often sixes, and Hope lets us do that. We talked about Gladiator, besides he's big. Shang-Chi, power must be controlled. Again, Captain Marvel says, I don't have to figure out where you're going to play. So many players message me, so many top players that lost right at the end of the game, message me and were like, I lost a 50-50 at the very end. I'm like, that's how Marvel Snap works, right? Like, the best players are going to win more 50-50s than not because they're going to set themselves up for it. But hey, Marvel Snap still comes down to a lot of 50-50s. Captain Marvel really helps you mitigate that, especially when hit by Galacta. Vision gives you a way to mitigate that, although you have to use your brain to do it, which can still be absolutely terrifying, so keep that in mind, but still very good. Galacta gives you some extra power, especially good on Gladiator, by the way, so he blows up 10 power cards, but also just generally really great. Captain Marvel is an amazing target, Vision's an amazing target, so on. Alliath turns off whatever nonsense your opponent has, and remember, in open deck list, you do know what nonsense your opponent has. Once you get good enough at Snap, you usually can tell as well. Red Hulk provides your opponent a ticking time bomb. It gives them a reason to retreat, which is a very powerful thing. It's a very powerful psychological effect for this type of tournament. And of course, Thanos gives you the stones to draw. The generally speaking, 5/12 that can't be destroyed can be played anywhere. So this beat the Manaluka on top 16 and lost to Hanifer in the top 8. Turn 1 stone draw. Turn 2 Strange over Surge over Fenris. Strange can be a snap. If you don't think your opponent can deal with it, you should have a decent idea of power in the game. Turn 3 Hope over 2 plus draw over Gladiator. Turn 4 is Galacta, almost always, over 2 plus 2 or Marvel. If you can play a 6 after playing on Hope, you play 6s. Otherwise, Vision is better than Galacta in 1. You can also play Thanos or Shang, as the case may be. Red Hulk, Alliance, stronger Thanos, end the game, and thus you win. This one doesn't even run Mockingbird, friends. What a new version. Perhaps to Jonathan Liu, for if you're going to take Thanos, at least he's got a really, really cool and original take on the build. Our question, should you like to enter to win Merlin, is, did you watch the tournament, and how do you feel about competitive Marvel Snap at this point? If you'd like to watch the tournament, the VOD is available at twitch.tv/Marvel Snap. You should also check out one of my streams at twitch.tv/PulseGlazer while you go watch that VOD. Next up, we got Songy. It's actually Song YY. There's a period between those two, but, deck builders, what are you going to do? Another top 8 deck, and we know this deck. This is Zenaid's list. Zenaid created this list right after the Sauron buff. This is obviously built off the, the Alexander Isaac version that was when Sauron still cost 2. That ran 4 different cards. This is still one of the best lists in the game. I think this might be the best ladder deck if you just want to gain cubes steadily right now, because this deck does an amazing job at answering things and putting out way too freaking many points. This deck needs Scar, Starbrand, and Surge. Cull and Ares can be Crossbones or Maul. Starbrand can be Juggernaut or Shadow King. Oh, Starbrand can be Juggernaut. Excuse me. Surtur can be Juggernaut or Shadow King. Sorry for the extra Starbrand there. All right, so Zebu makes your 4s 3, and you would really like to play a 3/10 if possible, as sometimes you don't see Starbrand, or you don't see 0 for Starbrand or Sauron for Starbrand, so Zebu gives you access to Ares, Cull, and Typhoid that early. Sauron makes your Starbrand, Typhoid, and Red Skull amazing. Yes, it's only 3 cards. That's why you're only running 3 cards, because of the change to Sauron, but that's still absolutely plenty. It's still absolutely game-winning when it hits even one of those cards. 0 provides a solid backup. If you've drawn one before you play Sauron, or you don't draw Sauron, 0 can just get rid of the negative ability, and also is ahead of rate as a 3-power card. Surge does the same thing as Zebu, letting you play those cards early, also giving both of those cards hitting Enchantress as extra value we'll get to later. Surtur only gets to 9 before Scar is played, but very often you can play 2 extra 10s at the end of the game, leading to Surtur to be about a 3/13. That's really great stats, and you're pretty happy to have it. Starbrand is a 3/10. You don't really want his negative ability, but there are games where you will deal with it. You can handle it with Sauron, 0, or Enchantress, but if you can't handle it, there are games where you'll just stack up 2 lanes so high, there's nothing the opponent can do. It's really important to remember this, in particular, in an open deck list format. You know when your opponent has Shang and when you can and should do that. Ares is, generally speaking, a 4/12. Magneto stats on a 4, really great. Enchantress is your way once they're played to handle your Typhoid or Starbrand. Remember to try and zero or Sauron one, and then the other two can be played in lane and handled by Enchantress while still playing Scar. All Obsidian, you've got 3 runs, right? Not run call. Typhoid is just a 4/10. Again, Sauron, Enchantress 0, that card. Red Skull can actually sometimes stay as a 5/14, especially against Cerebro, which it just kind of eats alive. And then, of course, Scar is generally speaking a 3/12 or a 1/12. If it's a 1/12, you can play it with Enchantress. If it's a 3/12, you got Zabu and Surge, hopefully, so it could still be played with Enchantress, and then you win the game at the end. This one beat 785 CM, which I believe was our Cerebro player, which is incredibly unlucky because Red Skull is amazing in that matchup. In the top 16, but lost to Yakovlevich in the top 4. Lost to Yakovlevich. Yeah, so we're finally in our top 4 decks here. Sauron or Zabu is hand dependent on turn 1. If you got all your cards in deck, Sauron can be a snap. Turn 2, Surge equals Sauron. Zabu, 0 is fine if Starbrand is coming. Next, turn 3 is a 4 or a 0 Starbrand or Sauron Starbrand over Surtur. Turn 4, Ares equals Cull is better than Mary. Turn 5, Red Skull or 4, and you can play a 0 and like a Typhoid here just fine. This is, or you can just Enchantress if you need to at this point. Turn 6, Scar and Big, or Scar and Enchantress, and then you win. This deck is not complicated to play. If you just want to hit infinite game cubes, this is the single best deck to play in my personal opinion. If you're interested in tournaments, if you want to participate in tournaments, please check out our Discord, link in the description to this and every video. We have King of the Hill tournaments fairly regularly. Next up, we got Honifer's top 4 deck. Our friend Honifer, hi Honifer, we'll have comments from Honifer, hit top 4 also with this really, really cool list. Very powerful stuff. We covered this in a regular video earlier this week. So this was in our Friday video of Best Decks at Infinite, but Honifer took it again and absolutely crushed with it in the tournament. Unsurprisingly, because it's his brew. Ignore that 64% in 81 games pre-infinite. That's from the last time I talked about it. I didn't redo the slide, friends. Honifer, this needs Werewolf, Annie, and Merlin. Sam, Kate, and Surge can be any good one on reveal. Nico, Ham, Iceman, and we're talking Spider-Man here as well. Honifer says, I've always loved Werewolf, one of my favorite cards since he came out. I didn't want to miss any opportunity to use him at his peak. This deck has also just genuinely felt very strong since I made it early this week, and I felt it being less of a common deck, it would help in a tourney setting. See? Told you. This matchup. The match I'm personally most proud of is my top 16 matchup against C2. Oh, he beat C2, excuse me. C2 is my deck building. I accidentally managed to hard counter Cerebro with Vipering Kate and Demon across for big wins. Hey, I did that on stream. I ended up beating a Cerebro 2 by sending over a... Yeah, I did that on stream with this deck. Of course, the semi against Roram will be ingrained in my memory forever. That's the one he ends up losing to the bar with no name hit by an Arishem Quake. As much of a bummer as it was to go out the way I did, I am generally very satisfied with how I played and how far I made it for a first try. If they ever do another GG, I do plan on making a grand return. Hell yeah, Honifer. I'm officially advocating for Cassandra Nova in every deck. In all seriousness, though, I'm just glad there's finally a serious tourney scene after all this time. Would encourage anyone on the fence to give it a shot the next go-around. Cool. Alright, so Yellow Jacket has a couple uses here. It's a nice on reveal to move the werewolf, which is nice. The other thing it really does is it gives an extra negative power to Sam's shield, which you can then send over with the Nihilus, which is pretty damn nice. Or like a rock that you get or whatever else. Hood is a card that you can send over with Viper with Annihilance or turn it into something better with Merlin, all good stuff. Sam gives you access to that shield, which is really nice, and then just has some solid power. Once in a while, you use Sam's shield to like prevent a void if you don't have a way of getting around that. Shadow King is your main control card. No Shang-Chi. Shadow King just controls power in a different way. Against like the Scar deck, though, this is gonna have a problem. Surge is again going to mess with information and give you some really, really powerful plays in this deck, especially like a 4-cost Annihilus allows you to do all sorts of broken things. Not letting your opponent know any of these things is obviously very important. Kate gives you an extra Clog card and some extra on reveals to move around your werewolf. Merlin is amazing with werewolf, giving you on reveals that move werewolf that will not take up a spot on the board is absolutely insane for Werewolf by Night. But also, Merlin can help you handle your Sentry card, your Void, your Hood, your Yellow Jacket, whatever Yellow Jacket hits, by either shuffling them to the deck for extra energy or turning them into a 1-cost higher card. Werewolf is crazy stupid power here. Just like between Merlin and Kate, he's a lot of power, but almost every deck in the every card in the deck is an on reveal. It's really just Sam, I think, that's not, and thus you have basically tons of werewolf moves. You're looking at like a 17 power card if you could avoid Shang and Shadow King. Viper sends over a card if you don't have a Nihilus or Merlin to do so. Just a reasonable extra card. Also, as Hanifer noted, hard counters C2. Sentry will give you a Void. Voids are amazingly useful. You can Viper or Nihilus, sure. You can also get a free or a 1-cost 5 out of it with Merlin, which is insane. Annihilus sends over stuff, great card. And then, of course, Agamotto. You have like a mini Clog thing, obviously, here, but Agamotto is incredible because Agamotto does have the Winds of Atum, which can prove very useful Clog, but it's also got Bolts of Balthak, which can allow you to do completely silly things like Sentry and Annihilus on the same turn, and you just love to see it. There's tons of crazy stuff you could do with this list for an absolute insane amount of power. So, this lost to Roram in the top 4 and beat I. Thomas and Jonathan Liu on the way there. Turn 1 Hood, and Yellow Jacket Reminder is meant to be played later, generally speaking. You can drop it early, but you don't have to. Turn 2, Merlin or Sage is better than Sam, which is more or less equal to Kate. If you have Werewolf, you're going to want to play Kate. If you're going to be doing some Annihilus shenanigans, you probably want to play Sam. Turn 3, Werewolf over a 2. Werewolf is often a snap. Sentry can be a snap, but you have to be careful. Know your deck and know your opponent. In open deck lists, it can often be a snap, though. Sentry over 2/2. Turn 5, Anti-Viper if Sentry is out, or you can still play Sentry here. You can also just play a bunch of cheaper stuff. Turn 6, Viper or combo stuff. You can do Demon, Shadow King shenanigans. Love this list. Check it out. Props to Hanifer for yet another top list in Marvel Snap. He's a beast. You should have known about him for months. He finished top 2 on the Infinite Leaderboard. We've been covering him forever. Our other top 4 finisher is Theseus. Theseus finished in the top 4 with Thanos ongoing. And I'm not sure this isn't the best deck in Marvel Snap. So Theseus lost to the only opponent in the top 16, I believe the only one in the top 16 that's running Killmonger, and Killmonger absolutely wrecks this deck. Outside of that, I think this might still be the best deck in Marvel Snap, which is completely obnoxious because they nerfed Thanos, but apparently not enough. I told you we weren't done with Thanos. After this one, we're done with Thanos, friends. Alright, so Theseus played this. Thanos, Goliath, Sam, and Mockingbird are needed. Wiccan can be Luna, Festus, or Hope. Gorgon can be Carrot, Speed, or Captain America. Betcha Theseus wishes it was Kyra right now. Alright, so we've talked about this list so many times. Derek created a version of this list that I believe was like 2 cards different, Gorgon and Mobius being the swing cards, the day after Goliath came out, or the day Goliath came out. And it has been one of the best decks in the game since, no matter how often or little people play it. Ant-Man, Goliath, Dazzler, and Sam are all small scalers. Cool. They're all small scalers, and because they're all ongoings, they all feed that Goliath. Because you have Thanos and 3 of those stones are ongoing, they feed Goliath and help you fill lanes for Dazzler. Sam's Shield also helps with this. Sam's Shield also helps you fill lanes that help Ant-Man. Sam's Shield and Sam also get extra buffs from Blue Marvel and Spectrum. Those are a little package together. Cosmo helps protect you from whatever nonsense. If you know your opponent has Enchantress, Killmonger, or whatever, Cosmo can help you in those games. There is a lot of Arishem and Thanos everywhere, thus the Gorgon. Mobius helps protect you from shenanigans. Wiccan gives you enough energy to do all sorts of crazy stuff. There are 11 other spots on the board, so Blue Marvel plays for a 5/14, which is stupid power. Meanwhile, Spectrum plays for like 6, almost 20 a lot of the time. Because this deck isn't running Straight and Supreme, Mockingbird is almost always like a free 9. You love free 9 power. And then, of course, Thanos gives you stones that both draw and get buffed by our friends. Excuse me, that both draw and get buffed by our friends Goliath and Spectrum and Blue Marvel and so on and so forth. And it's just generally a ton of power. Your opponent has to spend the last turn very often wondering if you're going to play Thanos, Mockingbird, Spectrum, or some combination thereof. And it's extraordinarily hard to play around. This lost to Yaku in the top 4 and beat Azona on the way. Turn 1 Stone Draw over Ant-Man. Turn 2 Sam over Goliath over Draw. Turn 3 Mobius or early plays. From here on, you Mockingbird as you can. Turn 4 Wiccan. Or combo of earlier plays. Turn 5 Blarvel. You can Thanos sometimes, but generally speaking, I want Blarvel. If you have Wiccan, you can just go off here. And then turn 6 Spectrum or Blarvel Mockingbird or some combo of cheaper stuff. Figure out your poison. This is just a ton of points. I'm not shocked to see this back. Again, I think this would have had a real shot at winning the tournament had it made the finals. Had the matchups been slightly reversed and this didn't have to run into Killmonger. Like, outside of that, this one is just super hard to beat. That's not this month. Ignore that. Next up, our second finalist is Yakoblevich, Russian player who is playing a nice, simple sort of Gwenpool Galactic good stuff, the type of deck that we see players like Shang Enjoyer and Chamo play all the time. This one running a little Fenris package. You'll love to see it, but also Loki to take opponents' good stuff. When Yaku at twitch.tv/Yakublevich. This deck needs Galacta, Surge, Merlin, Fenris, and Gladiator. Those cards are needed. Gwenpool can be Kahori. I know that seems wild, but if you're running Merlin, Kahori is really good. And Loki can be Negasonic here, although that changes the deck a reasonable amount. Loki is incredibly powerful in a tournament. You basically don't always want a Loki, right? You don't want a Loki Cerebro too. You don't want a Loki against a discard deck, right? But in an open decklist tournament, you don't have to. You run up against a Thanos, and now you have all the Thanos best cards, but one cheaper. That's kind of what we're looking for. Zebu and Surge are here. You're running 4/4s, and you would really like them to be cheaper. That's the simple rule here. Fenris Wolf gets one of your opponent's cards. How do we get our card from Fenris Wolf? We've got Killmonger, Gladiator, and Shang-Chi. Odds are we can kill at least one thing, turning Fenris into a downside like 2/5/2/6, which is perfectly reasonable. Merlin gives us access to location change and gives us something to do with our like extra Zabu style cards. If we don't manage to kill anything with Fenris, we can make it a 3. If we don't, once we've used a Killmonger or Mobius is used up, we can make them 4s, turn Shang into a 5, etc. Killmonger is incredible, right? Like, it's just, if you expect a lot of Thanos, and I think everyone did, then Killmonger's still great, even though we got some weird versions of Thanos that aren't as vulnerable. See the winner. Mobius stops a bunch of decks that might beat you. Gladiator gives a destroy, while also just being the biggest thing in the deck. Shang and Enchantress are problem solvers, and then Galactic and Gwenpool give you the points to compete. So lost our arms to the final, beat Propka, Song Bye Bye, and Theseus. Turn 1, Zebu is equal to Loki, depends on the matchup, and depends on what's in your hand. Turn 2, Surge over Merlin over Fenris. Turn 3, if you can Galactor or Gwenpool, you're really cooking. If not, Gladiator is better than Mobius, usually, over a 2/1. Turn 4, Galacta over Gwenpool over 2/2. Turn 5, Control card and Fenris. And turn 6, you just want to play some control cards and trigger Fenris. Aku played this brilliantly all day, winning all the way until the finals, when Roram, with that 34-card Monty of all decks, was able to take him out. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested, please check out our Patreon, patreon.com/snapjudgments, where we release exclusive videos once a week and do all sorts of extra stuff. Certain tiers of support come with honor. Thanks. Thanks to our patron of the month, Bricks to Click, Abigail Easton, Mandatory Burnout, It Regardless, LAB, Inc., Iron Frostman, Hudson Navidete, Thinking Poker, Prime Ryan, Ryan Burke, Ryanwood, Runwrench, Caretixley, Corey, Hazushi, Archangel 3K, Black Sally, Profros, The Goat Seeker, Code, Hallowed, Only Fox, Synth, Rat Nick, Absolute Shannon, The Nightmare, Dirty Casual, Mr. Kerfuffle, Cables, Jinja, Prime, Philly, Haplo, Kenny Loggins of the Danger Zone, The Bizza, Black Jeebus 23, Exorcy, and Skippy G, Jessica Gamble, Mr. Slush Death, The King of Bros, The Great Kazoo, Werewolf, Kev Suhoda, Luna, Chris, Clam, Colonel Foreman, Rob Silverman, M. Holland, David G. Wingfield, Steven, Brian Kaufman, Tristan H. Martin, Jason B., Mr. Craig Sterry, Matt V., Corey, Corwin, John Q., Jim McHugh, Cube Town, Yes Stout, Ace Sage, Bad, Milkman for Reals, Cactus, Jack, Reefser, BG, Good Pro, Joe, Snap Decision Show, to Carlo, congrats to Carlo, Models, Mod Supreme, Bickety Boom Bop, Green Goblin, Unibot, Flan 56, The Fuzzy Lump, Spectrum Mix, Hoot, Ocularis, Matt H, DJ, Mikey IJ, Don't Fucking Flex, Nick the Greek Geek, what's up, Nicky? Nick modded that whole tournament, Models and Gunny ran it, just so y'all know. Toxic Soul King, who's streaming in the middle of the night, as always. King Zodrex, the King of Canada, Denman Falcon, Thor Newman, Jonesy, Two Ties, the Great Lauren Whatevs. Congratulations, my friend. I hope it went beautifully. I will message you as soon as this is done, actually, to ask. The Pirate King Tucker, who damn near made the cut, missed by that much. And, of course, Kenny T, where the T stands for. I'll talk to you tomorrow. We will be talking about the new cards coming tomorrow and so much more on another Snap Take. Thanks for bearing with me. If you watched this long, make sure you hit that sub. You know, if you watched for like the hour this was, hopefully you enjoyed. Peace.